Hi guys, I'm Darren, and in this video I'll be giving my final thoughts on the Eachine Razor. So this video's been a long time coming. I'm the first to admit that. I've had problems with my flying sight and also just problems with weather, not being able to get out and life getting in the way. But I've finally got to get as much testing done with this plane as I thought I could to get a decent review. And it's a weird one because it's quite a mixed review. I will do a normal conclusion and I'll stick that at the end. So if that's all you're interested in, skip ahead. But I'm going to go through the different things I've tested and what I thought was good and what wasn't. So as you've seen from my build video, I just built this up to fly line of sight with 2S, just a receiver. There's no flight controller, anything like that in there. And as you can see from this maiden footage, it was really uneventful. In all honesty, the wind was probably too strong the day I maidened it, so it was all over the place. But that's not really the fault of the plane. It was just too windy for it, which yeah, you can expect. I think with this plane, you do need a fairly calm day. There's not really any getting around that. And we'll see more into that later on when I go through the FPV side. But line of sight, when I was going back through my video footage, I remember it actually being a really nice thing to fly. As far as any weird things going on, the only thing that I did notice, or actually Luke noticed it more than I did, the tail section is actually quite noisy if you put it on full power. It doesn't seem to affect anything, but it's quite rattly. But yeah, there's a definite sort of fiberglass sort of rattle when you give it some power. As far as the amp goes, it was fine on 2S. You would really only use full power to get it up in the air, and it was within the limits of the battery. So this is with not the stock motor, but one of the same spec. The ESC, the 30 amp ESC that I've put in there was a weird issue with the brake. Sometimes it would work, other times it wouldn't. That was a V-Good ESC, which otherwise has performed really well. So other than the brake not working properly, which may be a setup thing, or maybe it's just on a light mode, because sometimes it would stop, but I never actually continued and investigated that due to some things that you'll notice. But other than that, it flew really nicely, and it was really nice and relaxing to fly line of sight. So I'll swap over to another video so you can see this is another flight the same day but later on in the day, and the wind had dropped and it was actually really nice to fly at that point. It was again just on a 2S lithium ion, which does actually seem to last quite a long time. I was up there for a good 10-15 minutes, and when I got down it was, you know, still had well over 3 volts left in there, probably about 3.5, 3.6 volts. So there's plenty of flight time with this model. But yeah, so the only thing I didn't really get to do line of sight, which I would have liked to have done, is tried sloping it. But again, I think this is going to be a model that needs not heavy winds. It's not really, I think, going to penetrate that well. But for a light slope, or maybe like a beach with a lot more sort of updraft, then I think it would be quite a nice model to slope soar. Andrew Newton seems to certainly enjoy it, and he's a really good sloper. So yeah, I'll go with his opinions in, as I couldn't actually try it out myself. But yeah, so if you're flying it on 2S line of sight, then I think it's a really nice plane. It folds up small, fits in the box, so you can just leave it in your car, and then if you fancy going flying, just grab your transmitter, 2S lithium ion, and you're away. So what I did want to try out was the FPV side of things, and you can see here I've got a little all-in-one camera stuck in the nose, or the battery compartment. So that is a cheap Eachine all-in-one that I bought years ago. So one thing that I did discover was I absolutely hate these all-in-ones. They're just crap. The video, you look towards the sun, you get black dots where the sun should be, and it's really dark everywhere else. When you're away from the sun, it's not too bad, but it'd be nice if a company made a really nice all-in-one. So what I was potentially going to do was make my own one using like a baby Ratel or something like that, and AKK nano board, and that would hopefully do the job just as well. But maybe sort of the Runcam Nano would fit in there a bit better because it's just a flat board like these. But yeah, I think it's nothing to do with the Razor itself, but all-in-one cameras, I've not experienced a good one yet. But I'll leave that hatch there. But the FPV experience. So I will again show some footage, and it was a mixed bag. I really actually like the view when we got the prop in view. It's the first time I've done that FPV, and I really enjoyed it. So it was there. I could see that sometimes the prop was folding, other times it wasn't. But yeah, I just liked the immersiveness of having the propeller there. It was quite cool. But it did sort of highlight one of the problems, or one of the main problems with this FPV, and that's when you're flying back into wind towards yourself, it's really quite slow. It got to the point where it's like, I really don't want to be flying this FPV. It's not enjoyable. Line of sight, you keep it closer usually, so there's no issues there. Even if it takes a while to get back, you don't really notice it so much. But when you're flying FPV and you fly out, turn around, come back, it's a lot more apparent. But I also found that it would start sagging, and that was something that I didn't like too. So I would lose control of the servos if I had full power trying to get back through the wind. So I'd have to back off the power, and then I'd get some control back. So that made me want to try 3S. So what I'm going to do is just show a bit of footage. So this is my 3S sort of test, and the initial flight was quite nice. It was definitely better into wind. However, there was a slight issue, and if I show you this, you can sort of see what it is. Now, I wasn't actually flying FPV at that point. I was flying line of sight, but you could definitely see that it definitely had a lot more sort of power into the winds, that sort of thing. But the prop exploded. Now, if you go back to my setup video, you actually find out that this was actually quite well balanced. But it's just gone at the root, so I just don't think it could handle those RPMs. So if you are going for 3S, then definitely invest in a better folding prop. I think that it would have actually been fine on 3S without the prop issues, in which case it would be fine FPV. However, there is one problem with 3S, and that is the size of the battery bay. It's basically designed for a 2S lithium ion or a 2S LiPo. So I was flying with a 3500 2S lithium ion, and I went from that to a 1.3 milliamp 3S LiPo. And to actually just get it in there, it just sort of fits in the width, but I actually had to tape the hatch down to stop it opening, just to get in there. So the only real issue with 3S is you might be limited to like 1000 milliamp hour LiPo, which should still get you about 10 minutes of flight, I guess. It is quite an efficient plane, even though it doesn't penetrate the wind that well. But yeah, I think 3S is the way to go with this if you want to FPV it. Line of sight, as I say, 2S is absolutely fine. Other than that, it was actually a really nice thing to fly. It's a shame the prop exploded, but you can see in the video I did actually land it. This has not actually crashed. When the prop exploded, it pulled the whole nose off, and this was on the field miles away, and I just sort of brought it back in and landed it. surprisingly, with that lump off, the CG was actually still fine. So maybe I had it a bit nose heavy. It could have probably gone back a little bit, but luckily, because of that, when this came off, which I'm sure I weighed it, it was about 70-80 grams. It absolutely flew fine. There was no issues with control whatsoever. So if you do happen to lose your nose, it's not a problem. The only other bad thing that I found is this hatch here is quite weak. So if you're going in and out of this compartment a fair bit, which I am to plug my battery in, because I have my lead here, so I put the battery lead through to this part and then I join them up in the back. But I've taped it up a little bit, but yeah, I've taped it up so that it doesn't move so much. But along this joint crease here, where the spar goes through, it basically just flipped up 90 degrees. So it's quite weak there. You know, it's similar. I think the Mini Talon also has this problem where it gets weak where there's that bit. So be careful with that. But yeah, a bit of blender tape across the top has actually sort of helped that quite a lot. So for the conclusion, just to try and wrap this up for the people who didn't want to watch the rest of the video, would I buy this plane? Well, this depends on the situation. If I wanted it for gentle line of sight flying with a 2S pack in little or light winds, then yeah, I would buy the plug and play version, because that motor done up is a pain. And also, as you can see, I had to, it's really easy to show this now, but this side where the wires coming through that hole wasn't there, I had to Dremel that. The wires are supposed to come through this hole here. So yeah, if you're getting the kit version, you have to make a hole for most motors to fit. There's people saying, oh, all my motors fit, no problem. It's because they were using a 16x16 and only using 2 volts. But yeah, for most motors, this is a 16x19, but with a regular 16x19s, the wires come out of a slightly different place to the kit version, or the plug and play version. So yeah, if you want to fly at line of sight, little to no winds, be a really nice park flyer, then yeah, get the plug and play kit. It saves yourself a lot of hassle. Also, you wouldn't have to worry about the servo stuff. You see the other videos, you'll see what the faff is all about. If you want to fly FPV, honestly, I wouldn't really recommend it. It will work with 3S and you'll have a good plane with 3S, but getting the 3S in there at a decent capacity, it's just not worth it. There are better platforms out there. So I hope you guys found this video useful. Sorry it took so long. Hopefully the other plane videos I got coming out won't take so long as this. But thank you very much. Fly your models like you stole them. I'll see you on the next one.